And this is what he had to say.
Walter Reed Medical Center, and it's really something very special. The doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and I learned so much about coronavirus. And one thing that's for certain, don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines, all developed recently. And you're going to beat it. I didn't feel so good. And 2 days ago, I could have left 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I felt great, like better than I have in a long time. I said just recently, better than 20 years ago. Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen. We have the greatest country in the world. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune, I don't know. But don't let it dominate your lives. Get out there, be careful. We have the best medicines in the world, and it all happened very shortly, and they're all getting approved, and the vaccines are coming momentarily. Thank you very much, and Walter Reed, what a group of people. Thank you very much.
The scenes last night outside of Walter Reed Hospital, where people were shouting 4 more years and chanting USA, USA, as Donald Trump got onto the Marine One helicopter, and then following it, I was watching it last night on Sky News. Incredible piece of dramatic theatre, because what people forget about Donald Trump is that he knows precisely how to captivate the media. He knows precisely how to captivate images, and he knows precisely what it is that will make him front and centre of every news programme that goes out at that time. Because that is exactly what he did. And mark of genius, by the way, when he gets to the top of the stairs, stands in front of the balcony and just takes the mask off, puts it in his pocket and looks like $1 million. Let's talk to Sebastian Gorka, who refers to Donald Trump as the boss. He certainly bossed it last night, Sebastian.
It was epic. It was truly, look, you know me, Mike. I worked for plain old Mr. Trump when he was a candidate. Yeah. I worked in his White House as a strategist in the first year. Just a few weeks ago, he put me on one of his Pentagon boards. So, I thought I knew the guy. But this weekend has been incredible. I was there at Walter Reed on Saturday. I went back on Sunday to hang out with the great supporters outside. Not even me, Mike, a guy who's worked in the Oval Office, thought that it would be 72 hours and the boss is back in the White House. It's truly incredible. And what you said is absolutely right. That was, the theater of statecraft. Yeah. The idea that, he says, guys, he tweeted this out just before my show yesterday, said, yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm going to go back to the White House at 6:30. Gets it. First, he comes out of Walter Reed that has its own gold doors, just like Trump Tower. He walks to the helicopter, flies back to the South Lawn, gets out. And that moment when he took the mask off from the White House balcony, then the later video he does from the balcony where he says, he sends this really kind of religious message, this Christian message. Don't let this thing dominate your lives. Be not afraid. Mike, that is the definition of being a statesman. I grew up under Maggie Thatcher in the UK. It made me feel like I was a kid again under Maggie Thatcher. That's what you want from a leader when we have this thing making people so afraid irrationally.
Yes, of course. And it's been a very confusing time for the lefties, Sebastian, because, when he went in, they weren't sure what they could say. Some of them disgracefully were wishing him dead, which was a disgusting and awful thing to see on social media. Many of them now having taken those tweets away. Joe Biden said he was taking away all the negative ads. He's never going to be able to put them back. Nobody was very sure whether they could. I mean, the fact that they were blaming the president for getting coronavirus was extraordinary, because they never blamed anybody else for catching it. They blamed him for everybody else getting it. Now they're blaming him for him getting it. And then they started this ridiculous kind of, he could be very debilitated. I said on Friday, and I think I'm the only person that said it at the time, he will come back stronger, he will come back bigger, and he will come back and say, I beat coronavirus. That guy over there wouldn't have. And that's why he's going to win the election.
I heard you, Mike, and that's why things like talkRADIO are so immensely important, because everybody else in the legacy media told us what on Friday? Here in the United States, they said, oh, he's very sick.
Yeah.
He might die. We have to invoke the 25th Amendment of the Constitution to have him replaced because he's going to be incapacitated. He's on oxygen. He's dying. It was all utter garbage.
Right.
It was fake news. He spent 3 days in the hospital. He made multiple videos from the hospital. And then to top it all, he gets into his up-armored SUV and drives down to see all of us to say hi after he bought us pizzas the night before, standing outside the hospital. And then what does the fake news do? Oh my gosh, he's endangered the lives of the Secret Service. Oh, you mean the Secret Service, who are trained to catch bullets with their bodies for the president? Now you care about the police after 4 months of hating the police, saying they're all racist. Now you think they're really important. We have to protect them. Yeah. It encapsulates the last 4 years and just how morally and professionally bankrupt the media have become, Mike.
And they're all over the place as well, of course, because the other reason that I criticised them for what they said about the trip out in the SUV was that, well, if he's putting all of these people in danger while they're all wearing masks, why does everyone have to wear a mask if it's still dangerous? And they couldn't answer that.
I thought masks work, Mike.
Well, apparently not. So they don't work inside the presidential motorcade, apparently.
It's strange, yeah. A presidential SUV that, by the way, just for those who aren't aware, has a massive, thick perspex shield between the passenger cabin and the drivers. And all of the drivers, the Secret Service agents, were volunteers, had full PPE on. They even had medical gowns on. And I can tell you, as a guy who worked in the White House, who loved the uniformed and plainclothes Secret Service that kept us safe, I know that everyone on his detail in the hospital volunteered, said, yeah, me, sir, please, Mr. President, can I be the guy who's driving you down there? Because that's how much they love him, because he has their back and they have his.
Right. And what news of a Sleepy Joe? Because obviously, he can't now presumably attack Trump because Trump is still recovering from a disease, which he fought off. So he's in a pretty bad place now, isn't he?
Yeah, this is the really interesting political consequence of all of this. We're 27 days away from the most monumental election in the Republic's history, and the negative attack ads, they've got to dial it back now, Mike, because this is a man who can say, you know what, I've actually caught the virus and I've defeated it. My wife caught it, my closest team members. So he's going to come back in a position, an elevated position, to say, I can relate to you, I can sympathize with all of my people here in America, but we cannot let this Chinese virus dominate our lives. So, it's going to be super tough for sleepy, creepy Joe Biden. And
what about the debate? Is the debate still on? I mean, I know this week we've got the vice presidential debates happening, I think, on Wednesday night. What about that, first of all? But will the second debate between President Trump and Joe Biden continue? Yeah, so here we're going to have the next debate with Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. The vice president's debate is going to be tomorrow. My expectation right now, no final confirmation, is the second and third debates will happen. They may slide the second one by a day or two just to make sure that the incubation period is fully over. But it's going to be a town hall setup. It's going to be very different from the first one, and Joe Biden's going to be in trouble, Mike. Yeah, well, I mean, the difficulty for Joe Biden, in addition to having to now fight, what a man who appears to be Superman and who is telling everyone that he is Superman, is that nobody's talking about Joe Biden. I mean, literally, I haven't heard his name, I don't think, for the last 4 days.
Well, look, it's not an accident that this man not only is a international business phenomenon. You think about the fact that the word Trump is an international brand, from golf courses in Scotland all the way to Manhattan. On top of that, before he became president, the Donald Trump had 14 seasons of one of the most popular reality TV shows in the history of American television. So the idea that he can dominate a news cycle with just a 2-minute video. There's a reason that you played that clip. I'm going to be playing that video at the beginning of my show this afternoon because he knows how to communicate effectively, briefly, and stick to the point. So Joe's going to probably end up hiding in his basement for the rest of the election, except for 2 events.
Yeah, I know. I saw you were jousting with our good friend Mr. Piers Morgan the other day, which I thought was highly entertaining. But I mean, I don't know whether he's going to get you back on to try and justify some of the stuff he's come out with. Yeah,
he's asked me to, but I'm not going to do what he tried to make me do last time. I mean, I'm not a flipping performing monkey. Right. He wanted me to denounce the Proud Boys. Excuse me, Piers, I'm a guest on your show. What are you doing? This isn't some stupid debate run by a hack like Chris Wallace. So, you know, I like Piers, but he needs to do less of the gotcha journalism, in my opinion, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, but the great thing about Piers is he says he's not doing it while he's doing it. You know, that's one of his great one of his great skills. But listen, what about the polling? Because obviously, you know, you and I would probably have the same view of many of the pollsters who will skew whatever poll they want, whichever way they want it. Most of them have been wrong over the past 4 or 5 years on both sides of the Atlantic. Has there been any kind of poll done since last night which shows that people are rather more now moving towards Donald Trump?
Not yet. It's a little bit early here. It's still 7 a.m. here on the East Coast, but I'm sure we'll see some polling maybe by tomorrow. But let's be clear. We take nothing for granted at all. We always play as if we're 20 points down. But for those who are very worried about the president and his chances, remember what the polls told us in 2016. On the night of the election, the Huffington Post said, oh, Hillary Clinton has a 93% chance of winning. A month before the election, the New York Times said it's in the bag. So if you are in this age of cancel culture, ask yourself this question, Mike. If a pollster rang you up or knocked on your door and you were a Trump voter, would you tell them?
Well, do you know, I've never, ever been called by a pollster in my entire life, which strikes me as amazing, considering I've lived a reasonably long time, and yet nobody's ever called me. I mean, I don't know if I'm on some kind of, you know, block list or something like that, you know. I don't know. I do tend to tell people what I think, though.
Well, I think you would. I think you have a platform and you have a character that says, I'm going to tell you. But it's clear that we have a poll recently by the Cato Institute where 70% of the respondents say they are not comfortable openly identifying their political allegiances in a work environment. Yeah. Now, that's cancel culture. If 70% of respondents say, I prefer not to tell you who I vote for, then how can you poll anybody? And I've lived now in the United States for 12 years, and I've been called by a pollster once, and I live in D.C. So, you know, it's like the old Victorian, quote, science of phrenology, when they said the bumps on your head would dictate your character. Polling is like phrenology. It's a dead fake science. And we have a massive silent majority. We had it in 16, and the idea that it hasn't expanded in the last 4 years is totally counterintuitive.
Amazing. Sebastian, when can we hear your show later on?
It's 8 o'clock your time, so it's 8 to 11 in the evening. It's called America First, and just like you guys, we live stream on YouTube. So look for Sebastian Gorka, America First.
Fantastic stuff. That was Sebastian Gorka talking to us live from Washington, D.C.